How you doing, fans? Welcome back to another episode of In the Sand podcast. As always, I'm excited to have you back for another episode. I'm excited to have another great coach on, and it's a pleasure to continue to produce good content for everyone to be able to watch and support. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel so we can continue to produce great content. Today, we have on Coach Chance Collins, the head ninth grade coach at Rosa Scott, and he will also be the assistant at Madison Central High School on the boys' side. Coach Collins is an amazing young man. I had an opportunity to be able to work with Coach Collins, and when I mean work with him is, he was at Morton at the time, and I was at Pisgah, and we often had great battles. Of course, we had a common friend in Coach Dawson. And so I had an opportunity to be able to see Coach Collins at a high level. Of course, Coach Dawson and I are very, very good friends. And so we would often talk basketball, and he would often brag on Coach Collins. And when I saw Coach Collins, his energy he has super energy. He has a compassion for kids. He has a compassion for other people, and he just has a simple, genuine heart. And that always stands out to me. Are people who are true to what they say, but also to what they do. Then even towards my last year at Pisgah, Justin, my brother, was transitioning to Germantown, and I was looking for an assistant coach. And I was talking to Coach Dawson, and I thought about it. I said, man, let me reach out to Coach Collins. And in thinking about reaching out to him, I said, this guy really is going to be somebody's head coach. So I said, let me jump on real quick and see, can I get him on my staff? And no lie, I think the same day or the next day, he had just got hired at Lake High School. And I sent him a text message, and I was just very excited for him because, again, just the way he carried himself as an assistant coach, I knew that he would be great as a head coach. So I'm excited to be able to have Coach Collins on. Of course, he's getting a little bit closer this way with being in the Madison County School District, being a part of a great program at Rosa Scott and Madison Central. I know you're working alongside Coach Gardner. So I'm just excited to be able to see what my guy has going on. Coach, welcome to the show, brother.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate the word.
Yes, man. Again, it's been a long time, man. We haven't spoken in a while, so it's good to be able to kind of have this platform to be able to talk. Obviously, I had your brother on a couple episodes, and so it's kind of cool to be able to talk to both Collins brothers, man. And what I always try to do, I never try to make a reference to brothers, because Justin and I, sometimes they always say that's your brother or that's your brother, and sometimes you lose your identity in there. So I think it's important that we always address. We got Coach Trey Collins and we got Coach Chance Collins, because again, and y'all bond is super tight. It reminds me of Justin and I, but again, it's always good to have your own identity. And I was excited to work with Justin when we were at Pisgah, but I was even more excited that he was able to go to Germantown and kind of be able to create his own space in his own lane. And I know you and Trey have been kind of doing it anyway. So, man, I'm just excited to talk basketball with you, man, and let the world see some of this great knowledge that you have. So, Coach, before we get started, like we do always with all of our guests, again, I know you and I know a little bit about you. And before we even started this episode, Coach and I talked a little bit off camera, and I learned some things about him, which really touched me a lot, man. It really showed me his hard work and dedication. And that's the thing about it. And that's why I love the In the Sand podcast, because as coaches, you never know what the other coach is going through, what they have been through, their experiences, and you just never know. So just like when you, as I say it all the time, when you go to the beach, you never know what you're going to find in that sand. So again, In the Sand podcast, you never know what you're going to find out about a person. So, Coach, talk to us a little bit about how the game of basketball has really propelled your life to where you are right now. Just talk us a little bit about your journey in this beautiful game.
Okay. So first of all, really, I wasn't even a basketball player. I didn't touch a basketball until I was in seventh grade. I did not care for basketball. I was a football, baseball kind of kid growing up. My dad had me playing, flag football and, just little league baseball, growing up the whole time. Well, at my seventh grade year, my brother, Coach Trey Collins really kind of put me on. He kind of made me try out for basketball. I was short, quick, little guard, just kind of, a natural competitor. I was a competitor at heart. I didn't have a whole lot of skill when I first started playing. So I made the team just because I played so hard. Brought a lot of energy, like you said. I'm a big energy guy. I always brought energy to the team, whether I was on the floor or not on the floor. So I picked up a basketball 7th grade year. My brother really put me on, and a lot of credit to my basketball career goes to my brother. Just the success I've had. If it wouldn't have been for him, I'd probably never be. I would never be a basketball coach. I kind of looked up to my brother growing up. And now, fast forward a couple of years, I'm glad we're on this, kind of on different paths and all. But to this day, I still really look up to my brother and look to him for advice and stuff. But like I said, I played high school ball. Was blessed with the opportunity to go play at the next level at William Carey University. Me and my brother both were blessed to be able to play on the same team.
Yes.
It was actually during my time at William Carey when I decided to go into coaching. I felt like it was really a God calling. God just called me into coaching. So I started on my degree plan in education. Finished up at William Carey. I went there all 4 years and was able to get my first job as an assistant for Coach Dawson, our mutual friend. Another one of my really great friends, a brother to me and a mentor to me. I coached with Coach Dawson for 3 years and then was able to step into the Lake High School varsity boys position for 1 year. And then, now I'll be stepping into Rosa Scott and Madison Central this upcoming year. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm getting on to that 7A level, that 6A, 7A level, which is what my brother's been on for the past 6 years when I've been, 3A, 2A. But again, everybody starts on different paths, and I've enjoyed my time, at Morton, at Lake. But, I just feel like it's time to take that next step and move on up the coaching ladder.
Coach, that's amazing to hear. And I thought about what you said, started playing in the 7th grade. I think about my basketball career, again, nowhere on anybody's All-American list, Danny doesn't list, wasn't in that lane at all. 1st through 6th grade, I went to private school, pretty much was a star of that. My 7th grade year, I went to Chastain Middle School. And that's when basketball really became different for me. And I really had to really find myself. So when you say really start playing basketball in the 7th grade, that's kind of sort of when I really started playing. And it took me a minute to be able to get adjusted to it. And it was more really on my confidence level. And I don't know why I lack confidence, but I just think that just the environment is different. And you know how it is coaching. And not to sound, I guess, in a negative way, but city basketball, big time basketball, high competitive basketball is totally different than more of a control game when you're playing in a younger private school. Now, private school basketball, as you get older, is super competitive, especially when you get maybe quote unquote, I don't know if you would consider prep school or private school, sort of, kind of, but the competition level does increase. So that's pretty cool, man. And I like how you and Chance were able to play on the same team. I always wanted to play on the team with Justin. We only played on the team one time, and it was for like church ball lead, and we did that for like 2 years. But it was so cool to play on the floor with him because we knew each other. Like, we've been playing in the backyard together. Man, Coach Justin Sanders and I, we would often come up with pick and roll plays. We were in 2-on-2 games. Like, you did not want to play as a 2-on-2 because we literally, before the game would start, we'll come up with little plays and little diagrams, and people hated to play us. And I love doing that, man. It just, so we always had that coach mindset, and never really wanted to be a coach. If I could speak for Justin, he wanted to be in the NBA. And of course I did too. So I think that was cool for you all to be able to play at Carey together. We're playing for Coach Knight. Coach, I want to hear your perspective about Coach Knight. Again, Coach Knight is a legend here in Mississippi. I was doing some research. I know he's been at William Carey for 40 plus years. There are a number of coaches that I learned from talking to Coach Trey Collins a couple episodes ago of all the high school coaches that are coaching now. So Coach Knight has a big coaching tree. So just kind of give me your perspective about Coach Knight and playing at William Carey.
Um, Coach Knight is a really great coach. Coach Knight is the most winning coach in Mississippi. Coach Knight, I am forever thankful for the opportunity Coach Knight gave me and my brother. Kind of like you said, man, it's a real blessing for me and my brother both to be able to play on the same team in college. You know, not only in high school, but in college. I was fortunate enough in high school. You know, I started playing varsity in the eighth grade.
Mm.
After my eighth grade season, my coach moved me up, and I was kind of able to play. I didn't start, you know, but I was able to play on the varsity team my eighth grade year. Played eighth, ninth, you know, 10th, 11th, 12th, and my brother was 2 years ahead of me, so we got to play together a lot. You know, his last 2 years when I kind of started picking up and really started gaining a love and a passion for basketball around my ninth grade year. Um, but yeah, man, as far as Coach Knight goes, man, like I said, he's a great coach. He taught me a lot. He gave me and my brother, you know, some really great opportunities. Not just, you know, on the basketball side, but just letting us go to college together. You know, for both of us to be on a, you know, full ride scholarship to William Carey. Um, you know, that's a big blessing. You know, God was really looking out for us right there. Coach Knight was really looking out for us right there. We was both able to learn a lot about basketball, you know, X's and O's, just program building, playing at that next level. You know, playing at the collegiate level is really that next level. You know, it's a lot different than playing at high school. The speed of the game was really hard for me to adjust to when I first came in. Of course, you know, I played at a smaller school in high school, so the speed of the game was really hard to adjust to my freshman year. You know, I battled a few injuries here and there, but man, Coach Knight, you know, he really kind of helped me through all of that. Was there for me, you know, never really gave up on me. And same thing for my brother. Um, Coach Knight, you know, he playing for Coach Knight was a great experience. He led us to the conference championship almost every single year we played. We won it a couple, lost it a couple. We made it to the national championship every single year. National Not the national championship game, but the national championship series. You know, we was able to get over there and go to Kansas, you know, Kansas City and get to play, you know, on the biggest platform in the NAIA. And that was a really, really great experience for both me and my brother. So, you know, I'm sure Trey, the other coach Collins, had a lot of great things to say about Coach Knight and what he did for us, and you know, just the opportunity he gave us to go and create not only just a bond for me and my brother to play together, but for me and a lot of my college friends, you know, because that's really where you meet some of your lifelong friends we go to and go play ball down on the coast with. You just from some of our former teammates, you know, we've gotten together a few times and played in some city league tournaments, or you know, just went to a tournament to try to go win some cash. You know, just all got it up and you know, go pitch in a little bit of money and you know, just go have some fun, kind of like we did in the old days, man. I miss those days. It was a great time. Got to, like I said, got to meet a lot of really good friends, guys I consider brothers now. And you know, if it wasn't for Coach Knight, you know, that never would have been an opportunity for us to do.
Coach, I think that's major, and that's one thing that I know a lot of us coaches we miss. Like we don't necessarily miss the running, we don't necessarily miss waking up super early, but we miss the having something to compete, having something to compete against, I guess, and
Mm-hmm.
then just the bond. Like those are the things, and even when you listen to NBA players when they retire, those are things that they miss, just the competition. They say to miss the airplane, you know, being on the airplane with their teammates and playing cards and being in a locker room, because it's nothing in life that can quite replicate that. But I think coaching does that for us a little bit because we
Mm-hmm.
get to prepare and mentally prepare to, again, a coach against another coach. Obviously, the bus rides that we have with our kids and the time we have with our kids now becomes that moment. So that's one thing that coaching has done for me. Now I do other things to try to find that competitive edge. I enjoy bowling. I'm in a bowling league. I know coaches always say, "You bowl." I'm bowl in a bowling league with my church on Thursday nights, and I'm slowly getting better at that. I golf. Well, I try to golf, and Coach Dawson kind of got me in
Yeah.
that. I'll talk about that in a second, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm not good at it, man, and I hate that though. Chief. I hate that I'm like that bad. It's almost just sad. Like I look at my golf clubs and I just shake my head, and everybody keep telling me, man, get some get some training, get someone to train you. Like I talked to Coach Maurice Bowie. He said, get somebody to train you. I talked to Dawson. I talked to Coach Spencer Gather. And this is the thing that gives me chance. They say, man, go ahead and get you somebody to teach you. And then the first thing I asked them, I was like, well, who did you go to? Man, I ain't go to anybody. So I'm thinking like, you telling me to go, but you ain't going. They like me. I'm just naturally good like that. I said, okay. So man, I'm trying to put my pride to the side and learn this game because it's a good game, but it's tough, man. But you know how it is. You as a competitor, you want to be good at everything. It's amazing. Like I said, the NAI, the National Championship is good. I know every time we go to Tougaloo for those clinics, I do look up at the banners and I saw where you said they do go to Kansas City. So that's amazing to be a part of. All right, Coach. So you leave William Carey. You go to Scott County. You're working at Morton High School. Before we talk about your experience at Morton, again, I want you to talk about Coach Dawson a little bit. And I just talk about how I know him. And this is different. Like this is not a bad different, but this is like a different type of story. Like I coached Coach Jared Dawson for 3 years in high school. And people might wonder, like, how did that happen though? And it's funny how it happened. His freshman year, I was a junior in college. And I was just volunteering back in my high school to see if I really wanted to get into the game. And then when I got my first, and so I went back to Murrah High School for my first job, as I kind of talked about with Candace Foster. I think Candace was a senior, Coach Foster was a senior, and Coach Dawson had to be a junior. So I coached him his junior and his senior year. And when Coach Dawson and I were talking about it a couple years ago, and I was like, man, I really coached you like for 3 years. And out of the blue, it's funny how it became a player relationship to a real, like a friendship. And it really became that because, he really invited me. He said, Coach, let's go golfing. Even before that, Coach Dawson was also in my wedding. So this game could really create a lot of relationships with it. And of course, he calls me every 2 weeks. I got to do a better job of calling him. He's more faithful in that, and I appreciate that. Obviously, he's assistant principal at Provine, but I do appreciate his relationship. And so that's one thing that I would say to our coaches that are listening. Some of the young ladies and some of the young guys that you're coaching right now may end up being, a lifelong friend. And to me, that's what teaching looks like. Because one of my favorite teachers in high school, and I said this on a previous episode, Miss Dawson, that works for the Mississippi High School Association, she was my advanced seminar, which I think the class now is called CCR, but she was my 12th grade teacher. And now, and that was in 2005, now in 2023, we have a great relationship. Like she's very helping. She supports me and she keeps me encouraged when things are not going so good, and she keeps me encouraged when things are even going good. So I'm appreciative of those relationships. So that's kind of how my little spin with Coach Dawson. But talk to us about Coach Dawson, and then also as you talk about him, kind of talk about your time in Morton, because that's when I first met you, and I know that you had a good time being at Morton High School.
Yeah, man. So to be honest, I wouldn't trade my time in the world with Dawson for anything. Dawson is a great A guy. I love Coach Dawson, man. That's a mentor. He's a great friend, a brother to me. Coach Dawson was really, honestly, a big factor or a key to my success in my coaching career this year at Lake. Even though we weren't coaching together anymore, if I had a good game or a tough game, all I got to do is give Coach Dawson a call, and he's going to answer the phone. It don't matter what time of day, what day it is, he's going to answer the phone, and he's going to be there for me. But he's also going to make me figure it out on my own. He's going to be there for advice, and he's going to hear me out, but he's not finna baby me. That's not what he's going to do. He made me figure stuff out on my own at Morton my first year. He kind of threw me in a junior high head coaching position and a JV head coaching position. First game, he was like, you got it, bro. Like you got it. Like you're gonna stand up, you're gonna be, first chair. I'll be first chair in the varsity game, but you're gonna be first chair in these other games. You're gonna learn what it's like to have a head voice. When I first came in, he made me had that head voice in practice. Sometimes he would take off of work or miss practice just to make me run a practice. He was essential in preparing me to be a head coach. I mean, I don't think, and this no discredit to any other coach, but I don't think I could have worked for a better head coach for me personally to prepare me to be a head coach. He just me and Dawson just we forged a really strong bond together, a brotherhood, like you said, man. And I knew Coach Dawson coming in. When I first came in, me and Coach Dawson talked a lot. We still chop it up to this day, every few days. We give each other a call, and just chop it up for a little while. But he told me when I first came in, that you were his mentor. That you were somebody that he really looked up to. When we got to play y'all when you were at Pisgah, some great battles at that time. I had the pleasure of meeting you at that time too, and I saw why. He said, you were such a good mentor, such a good friend of his. And just working with him, I was able to network, and he allowed me to meet a lot of people, to really put myself out there. He didn't put any kind of limitations on me. He really was just all for me. And he taught me, everything I needed to be a successful coach. And don't get me wrong, I don't feel like I know everything. I don't feel like I even know, a smidget of what some coaches know in this state. But I feel like he was really, really, or I know he was really, really essential to my start in my career. Like I said, we were really able to forge a really strong bond. And over our 3 years together, I was at Morton for the past, 3 years prior to this year at Lake. And we were able to win over 60 games, together. I think our first win, our first season together, we had like an 18 win season. And the next two were like 23 win seasons. We were to have a 60 plus, win tenure together. We were able to play for the district title, the district championship title, 2 years back to back, my second and third year there. Unfortunately, we kind of dropped the ball on both of them. Kemper County, Coach Woody Howard from Starkville, he was at Kemper County my second year, and he beat us by 3 in the district championship game at Kemper County. And then the following year, Coach Centel Truman, which is another good friend of mine, good mentor of mine, he was at Southeast and was able to have DeMondre Graham, the 3A Mr. Basketball. He had a baseline floater on us to put the game away, and beat us by 2 points at Clarkdale. So we lost the district championship twice, but we got there. We had a chance to compete for the district title 2 years in a row. Had, over the course of 3 years, had a 60 plus win tenure. Was able to make the playoffs every single year that we were there. So it was a really it was a really big blessing, and also working in a small school. And I know we're supposed to get into that later, so I don't want to really talk hit on that too much right now. But he just taught me the importance of the buy-in, the buy-in of players, and bringing that consistent energy, that consistency to a team. Bringing the same thing to a team who needs that every single day. Because you're not just, odds are you're not just going to step into, especially for your head job, you're not just going to step into, a team that has been to the state championship, the past 5 years. The team that's won a state championship 3 out of the last 5 years. Typically, that's not your first job. Typically, as a head coach, especially a young head coach, you're going to have to be given a chance, at a place like Lake, who just hasn't had, much success in the past years. And those kids really need to see that consistency. They need to see that consistent energy, that consistency from a coach on a daily basis, because everything in your program starts with you. You're the head of that program. So whatever you want your players to bring, you have to bring that yourself. So sometimes, he told me, and he was real big, on my energy. And that's why he wanted to bring me in, because he could just sense that energy when I first interviewed. And he said, he just thought I would be a great part for the program. And he just kind of helped mold me to be a great part of that program. He helped me to find my voice as a coach and to bring that constant energy. And he demanded it. Not only did he demand it, but he inspired it. And that was it was an awesome experience to work for Coach Dawson in that. And he was able to really train me up to be the kind of coach that I need to be, which I still have a lot to learn, and learn from coaches like yourself, coaches like another mentor I reached out to all the time, my brother, Coach Dawson, just talking to a lot of coaching mentors I've several throughout the state. Tony Tadlock, which, I was able to watch his podcast with you, a few days ago, or a little over a week ago. I was able to catch that preview. That's another mentor of mine. I just have several coaches that I really consider to be strongly educated and just great mentors for me that I reach out to. And none of that would have been possible without Coach Dawson ever having given me that chance, that opportunity in the first place. So yeah, man, Morton's a special place, but like I said, I know we're supposed to get into that just here in a little bit, smaller schools and all.
Coach, listening to you talk about Coach Dawson, it made me think about one of my mentors when I was student teaching, and this is on the education side, has nothing to do with basketball, but it was Coach Hinton. Of course, she's gone home to be with the Lord right now, but she was my mentor when I said it, student teaching at Jim Hill High School. And she did the exact same thing. Like one day she took off and like she left me. She told me like, I'm gonna leave you in the class and I'm gonna allow you, do what you need to do. So in my mind, I'm thinking this is gonna be easy. When I get in there, man, it was more challenging than I really thought it was. Like it was difficult to be able to kind of work with those kids. And I was kind of slick mad at Coach Henry. I'm like, you left me in here. It was a Friday. I went home mad, kind of deflated. But I said, I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna study my lesson. I'm gonna have all this together that I need to have, and I'm gonna have it in line. And a couple weeks later, when I look back at it, I told her I appreciate it because what she prepared me for that day, even though she probably was having lunch or maybe getting the nails done or whatever she was doing, she left me in that classroom with the Lions. But it made me become so much better. And she inspired me and gave me so much courage to be able to do that. And then also too, when I go back on the coaching side, my assistant coach, Coach Arthur Brown, when I said I was able to go back when I was still at Jackson State my junior year and go back and start helping him with his 9th grade program, that's what he did for me. He allowed me to be able to coach some games, and I owe him that. And so I said that to say, coaches, we have a big opportunity to be able to move the game forward. And we also have to just use our gifts and use our time to invest in young guys or young ladies, because those pay major dividends later on down the road. And I'm so grateful for Coach Hinton at Jim Hill High School. She was a volleyball coach who helped me in the classroom. And I'm so appreciative of Coach Arthur Brown, my 9th grade high school coach, who allowed me and gave me my chance to be able to do that. And just hearing you talk about Coach Tadlock, like typically, man, and you can tell kind of the influence that he has. Coach Foster spoke highly of Coach Tadlock. Coach Trey Collins spoke highly of him. You spoke highly of him. Coach Tadlock is doing some amazing things. And again, he's just a quality type of guy. And again, I said this, and I'm going to keep saying it, and maybe I'm right. I just feel like, college is really knocking on his door. Any college job any college will be lucky to have him. And again, I'm not putting pressure on Coach Tadlock. I don't want Ranger Nation of Raymond to be upset with me. But again, he's just another young guy that I believe is going to be successful. And then I got another young coach that's doing well. Coach Carlisle from Yazoo City, he's going to be on in a couple of episodes, and he's doing major things. And then, Coach, I believe you keep doing what you're doing. I believe you're going to fall right in that boat of being successful. So I'm excited to be able to see you grow, which leads into my next question. So, Coach, talk to me like the feeling. Talk to me about what was going on when you got that phone call and said, "Man, you about to be the head coach of Lake High School." Of course, Coach Gray was there before you. Obviously, Coach Gray is a legend in Scott County. Of course, he won state championships at Scott Central. He did his thing in Newton. Of course, he went back to Scott Central. So again, he's one of my guys, and we had a lot of different battles. Coach Gray is a good guy. So, Coach, talk to us again about just getting that phone call and saying, "Hey, Coach Collins, you're a high school coach." Just talk to us about the emotions of, and just all of that. What you can just remember about that the most.
I really remember that moment. It's a moment I'll never forget. It's really unexpected, to be honest. I had a few options. I had, thrown my name in the hat at a few different places, and I had a few different places looking at me. One superintendent in particular called Coach Harrison, Chad Harrison, which is our district AD. He was Scott Central's former girls coach, Coach Victoria Vivians. Coach Harrison is another coach, that I just consider a strong mentor. I love Coach Harrison. The opportunity he gave me entrusted me with taking over as a young, head coach over at Lake. But like I said, superintendent called Coach Harrison and told him, Coach, we just interviewed Chance Collins. Coach Collins, we're about to offer him the job. And, he said he had nothing but great things to say about me to that superintendent, and, just talked me up, and just told me he was just completely honest with him, and told him everything he thought about me. And then he got off the phone with him. He called me and he said, Coach, I want to offer you the job at Lake. he said, I don't want to lose you. Scott County, can't afford to lose you. He said, you're too valuable here. Just fit in well with the kids, with the community. He said, we want to keep you here. So we just want to extend that offer to take over as Lake head coach. He said, I feel like you're ready for a head coaching position. And, he kind of threw a few different things at me and threw some things on the table and said, just think about it. So I did. I thought about it. And, at that time, I was also getting ready to ask my wife now to marry me. So I had to go talk to her. I had to go talk to, my girlfriend about to be fiance. Just because she was about to be, a part of that decision process. So I went and talked to her. I talked to a few of my mentors. Coach Dawson, my brother. Just talked to them, and just kind of want to weigh options on different teams. But ultimately, I felt like Scott County was where my heart was at. My heart and soul was in Morton for 3 years with Coach Dawson, with all those kids. And Scott County is a really special place. So I decided to stay here at Scott County. I just knew, taking on a team like Lake, I knew it was going to be a challenge because I knew, no discredit to Coach Gray, because he's a great coach. He's a legend. In Scott Central, won some state championships, but the boys have struggled or had struggled the few years previous. So I knew just coming in was going to be a bit of a challenge, and I wanted to take that challenge head on, and wanted to see what I could really do with a team, who just won 5 games, the year before I came in. So with that being said, I really wanted to stay in Scott County. The emotions were just high. When I called Coach Harrison back and I said, Coach, I want to accept the job. After he said, great, let's get things rolling. I didn't really have to wait on board or prove anything like that, because it was an in-district move. It was Scott County to Scott County, Morton to Lake. So everything was official. And they switched me, and Coach Bowie at that time was coaching Lake girls and just won a state championship. And they switched me and Coach Bowie. Coach Bowie actually took my job, not my position, but like my teaching position here at Morton. And I went and took his position at Lake. So we both actually got to finish out the year at our school that we were going to be working at, in the upcoming season. And that was really, really cool. That just administration allowing us to do that. That was a lot of support from Coach Harrison, allowing us to make that move, from Dr. McGee, allowing us to make that move and switch us so I could start practicing my guys, in the off season last year, and so could Coach Bowie. So that was a really, really good situation for us. It just made me that much more excited to have that kind of support, from Coach Harrison. And man, it was just, I was just ecstatic, just being able to be a head coach for the first time. Even though, I know I'm stepping into a 9th grade position this year with the Little Six, is very, very competitive league. And I'm stepping up to that 7A level to be an assistant. My time at Lake was just awesome. I was ecstatic to be able to step in as a head coach. It was just a great feeling to be seen and actually to have my opportunity to see what I could do as a head coach.
Coach, that's amazing, man. Because I agree, it was no shade thrown at Coach Gray, because Coach Gray and I would often talk, and we first developed our relationship my first year at Pisgah. And I was at Pisgah 6 years, so we've been kind of had conversations these last 7 years. And so he just talked about some of the challenges that he had to deal with just coming from Newton. Obviously, if you go back and you look at, obviously, Max Prep at the time, if you go back and look at everything that he had accomplished, and then, like you said, at Scott Central, and then look at the challenge that he had with Lake. So what you said was definitely no shade to him. Those are some things that we had expressed over time with building that. And so that's an amazing thing. And so in working at small schools, it has a challenge in and of itself. And I know personally, I didn't know anything about small schools. And that's me being super transparent. And I really can say that my outlook to small schools was not positive at all. It was more of a negative outlook because when I played ball at Murrah High School, and so when I'm thinking Murrah High School, and then I see these other small schools, I'm thinking, man, we do this at a higher level than what you all are doing. And again, that was just me being ignorant of the fact of the process of small school basketball. And so just because you say small school, I think when people hear small, they think negative. But again,
Mhm.
it's just small just because of the numbers. But the work ethic of the kids and the coaches, the support and just love from the fans and the community, and then just the overall pride in schools where it's a community school where kids play a number of sports. They involved in everything, and just from basketball, baseball, softball, archery, cross country. It's just so much involved. And so there are a lot of pros and there are some challenges, there are some cons to it. And Coach Porter from Pelahatchie, he kind of talked about it a little bit because he was at Noxapater in 1A, and then he went to Northwest and then at Pelahatchie. And so it's a lot of ups and downs, and you have to be able to know how to maneuver this, coach. So talk to us a little bit about coaching at a small school, because there are some things that if you're not familiar with it, it could catch you off guard.
Right. I mean, it is a, there are challenges, everywhere. There are challenges on 6A, I'm sure. I've never been on that level. Even in high school, I went to Newton. So I'm from a small school, 2A, got my first job at a 3A, at Morton, which is considered a small school, 1A, 2A, 3A. And then my first head job at a 2A. It definitely, and as a coach, stepping in the coaching side versus being a player, you actually really get to see firsthand a lot more of these challenges that you don't really realize when you're a player. You take some things for granted when you're a player versus being a coach. Some of the biggest pros and cons, working at a small school, I would say one of the biggest pros is kind of like you said, the community support, man. Like a small school, everyone knows everyone. Like, a place like Lake, everybody's family. Everybody has family. Across Scott County, people across Scott County have family at other schools, so and everybody at Lake, a lot of people in Lake are family, and then if you're not family, you're really close knit friends. So everybody knows everybody, and that kind of close knitness, kind of togetherness really brings in a lot of community support to, all kinds of games, football games, basketball games. I can't think many nights that I looked up in the crowd, and the crowd wasn't packed out in green. It was fired up big green every night, girls and boys. The community support was just astounding. I really hit on that in our basketball banquet, which we had just a couple nights ago. We had a basketball banquet. And I told them, Lake is a special place. It's a really, really special place. The community support is surreal. It's unlike, many other schools. There's a small school been able to go pack out the big house. Our girls able to win back-to-back state championships, this year and last year. This year under Coach Moncrief, and last year under Coach Bowie. But, the girls were able to go win back-to-back state championships. And last year when I was at Morton, and I go in the big house and I look on one side of the stands, and the big house from a 2A school is almost completely green, and then the same thing, the girls go back this year and it's the same thing. Schools let out early for the state championship game. The girls, girls go up there, they're having fun, having a blast, and everybody, the whole crowd, almost like the whole town of Lake followed, and it was like that every home game. We brought good crowds when we traveled, just in regular, in district play and regular season play, just in season. The community support was one of the best pros because everybody was for you. And just that support there, because everybody knows everybody loves everybody, everybody's family, is one of the best feelings you could actually experience. It's just different at a 2A. I know at a 6A and a 7A, you might of course, I don't know firsthand. I will this year. But I know 6A, 7A, you're not gonna know everybody. Everybody's not gonna be. It's so big. It's gonna be a lot more expensive. It's just not gonna be as close knit. It's not going to be as togetherness. Now your basketball team may be, but as far as the school as a whole, it won't be. But one of the biggest cons, man, I would say one of the biggest cons is, at a small school, and I'm an advocate, I'm sorry, for dual sports and multi-sport athletes. I want kids to play as many sports as they want to play. But at a place like Lake, I had 14 players on the team, including 3 eighth graders. So I mean, I had 11 guys on the team, and out of my 11 guys, 9 played football, and they waited to the third round of playoffs this year. So I didn't get my guys. Our last date was June 29th in the summer, and I didn't get my guys for their first game until December 1st. I mean, so that's tough. I went almost a little over 5 months without the guys touching the basketball. I went over about 5 months, where the guys not getting to practice or not getting reps, and then our first game is December 1st and our first district game is December 16th, so 15 days in a season, we're playing Kemper County, who was the number 1 team in the district in regular season. We're playing them in our first district game. I mean, and again, you got guys who play football. It also sometimes brings injuries. So I had 4 players injured at the beginning of our season. I mean, so we were hurting in numbers. And then, we also suffered a tragedy. I'm not sure if you heard of it, but we lost a brother. I had a senior big who was taken from us. He was murdered. Right at the end of football season, and he was a senior starter, for the basketball team, and that really shook our guys up going into the season and everything. Now, granted, the boys really faced a lot of adversity, and they took it head on. We were able to go 10-13 this season. We were able to double the win column from what they had last year, and out of those 13 losses, 7 of those were by 5 or less points, and out of those 13 losses, we had a lot of players, just being down in numbers. Because it's a small school, being down in numbers, kind of caught up to us some as we were playing. There was one point during the season, we were down 2 or 3 starters, in district play and lost 5 games straight. I mean, so that kind of stuff. A small school, one of the biggest cons is the numbers that you have. You don't have as many numbers to pick from. Didn't get to play until December 1st because football made it to the third round, and the majority of my guys were football players. Now, I was happy, and I was at every game that they went to. Every game that football made it to, I was at third round at Velma Jackson supporting the football boys. I wanted them to go as far as they possibly could because, I'm for the kids. I want the kids to be as successful as they can be in whatever they play. But on the same hand, I'm looking at them football players on the field, and I know I'm not going to get to play, until December. I mean, so, that's one of the biggest cons. If you want to consider it a con, it's just one of the biggest cons, the numbers that you have. But again, I mean, I feel like, the pros really outweigh the cons. Small schools are really special. Small schools are really special.
Yeah, coach. And the reason that I brought that up and I wanted to communicate that, some might say, well, coach, you seem like you're going negative and you try to do things positive. That is, everything coach said is a positive. The reason that I wanted him to be able to talk about that is because and Coach Brown from Madison Central, which I know you get a chance to be able to meet her, she was at Velma Jackson, and we talked about this same issue, and she said something that I thought was key, and that's why I brought it up again, just in case someone missed that episode. I think you really gain a lot of knowledge by starting off coaching at a small school, because Coach Collins talked about it a little bit. You have to deal with small numbers. You have to deal with sharing athletes. A lot of the times you have to drive the bus. At larger schools, sometimes you have multiple coaches that drive the bus. Some schools have a hired company or organization that drives the bus. A lot of times at small schools, you got to coach the junior high team, the JV team, and the high school team, and you may not even get paid to coach the the JV team. You have to be able to help raise money. You have to have you help feed the kids. You might have to go pick up the food. You might have to go pick up the concessions. Some schools, you might have to help out with the girls program. At some schools, you got to wax, and you got to wax your own floor. You have to do a lot at small schools. At small schools, after the game, you got to clean up the game. You got to clean up the bleachers. You have to set up the gym. It's so much that you have to do. And I want to make sure that coaches, because this is the season where individuals are applying for jobs, I want you to be able to know these are the things that are going to be expected of you. And even though it is a challenge, it's going to really help you appreciate and be successful, because you're going to be able to have so much knowledge of wealth, because you have pretty much have done it all. And the reason I think that's important, because sometimes when you like, I would love to be a college coach one day. And I look at the schedule of junior college coaches. And, we'll have Coach Murphy on from David Sanders on in a couple episodes as well. And they're coaching at the JUCO level. And they're going to give us some insight into that. But I know this only usually is 2 coaches. And sometimes you get a third coach, but they got to do a lot of their work. So it just prepares you for that moment. And coach said something that's key too. And we're definitely not knocking. And this is the thing that a lot of basketball coaches get. And football coaches say, well, the basketball coach don't want our kids to play football. Absolutely not true. We believe in our athletes playing a lot of sports, but to be honest, we really want to have our kids as much as possible, because look what Coach said. I had to write it down. Coach said the last time his kids played were June the 29th. He didn't get them back in the gym to December the 1st. Now you got to think about it. The first game of the season last year may have been maybe October 29th, somewhere between there. So literally, coach almost has to wait 6-7 weeks before he even starts doing anything. So think about it. A team that may not have football players that going deep in the playoffs, they got almost a 6 to 7, 8 week advantage on coach already. So then he gets them December the 1st, and 9 times out of 10, he probably made a practice once or twice, and then you go right into district time. And you got to think about this. And this is what I thought about when he said this too. December 16th, that's around final exam week. Then Christmas is coming up. So think about all those different challenges that you have to create. So again, our basketball coaches, we love our football coaches. We love what we do. It just creates a challenge for us. And that's what really that we have to improve on. And hopefully this podcast kind of create some more togetherness with that, is that the football coach and the basketball coach, they do have to be on the same page. And then it's just not us. I think about the baseball coach. Sometimes the baseball coach, he may end his season in June 29th. And if he's at a school that got a good football program, a good basketball program, heck, he may not see his kids until last week of February, early March. So it's just not a basketball thing, football thing. All sports have to work collectively together. Because the reason I said this, and I said this on another episode, Coach, I had my point guard. I coached him for 4 years, 9th through 12th grade. And I said it on a previous episode, I only had him equivalent to 1 year. Like 1 year, because he played football. After football was basketball. After basketball, he went to baseball. And after baseball, we'll do some things in the summer. Then he's back to football. He only really spent 3 months each year in basketball. So he missed a lot in that moment of it. So it's a great thing, but I would love to see us find some way to be able to make that easier for everybody. And Coach said this too, and I had that same experience. And losing a player, we lost a player after the season, so I know that's tough. But losing a player in the season has to be tough. So, and it's funny you brought that up. Coach Stewart, who's our assistant coach at Richland for the girls, we were talking about Coach Fred Harris, who was at Jim Hill at the time. Of course, he's passed away as well. But I know that he tried to implement a curfew for his guys who live in his particular area, because there's so many things that happen outside of the 4 walls of the gym that we can't control. So again, I did hear about that, Coach. There was a definitely unfortunate incident that happened in the city and for the school of Lake. And so again, I know prayers out to that family as well. So Coach, talk about this now. Some people may be wondering, all right, Coach, you're a head coach. You always want to be a head coach. You got Lake rolling in the right direction. You double the wins. Obviously, you see the Rosa Scott job is available. So, Coach, talk to us about what led into the decision to be able to leave Lake High School and you still transitioning from a high school coach still to a head position. It's just at a ninth grade level. Still going to be on the high school side at Madison Central. But talk to us about, how did you decide to take your talents from Lake and bring them here, well, bring them to Madison County, and to be a part of Jaguar Nation at Madison Central High School?
Yeah, so it wasn't easy. It was not an easy decision. Just being blatantly honest, it wasn't just Madison Central opened up. Let me jump on this ship. My time at Lake, my time at Scott County was really special. My heart and soul has been in Scott County. My heart and soul was at Lake this year. I wasn't trying to treat Lake as a stepping stone. I had um, years planned out. In my head, I was already planning. Up until the moment I accepted the Madison Central job, I was planning, the upcoming seasons. I was planning the upcoming season in particular, who I was going to run as my one. Because at Lake, man, we were really young this year. We had one senior. I had 3 8th graders, 7 sophomores, 2 juniors, and 1 senior. So we were really young. So we were only losing 1 player. We went 10 and 13, and like I said, 7 of those losses were by 5 or less points. So we were right there from reaching the mark. And as a coach, that comes with you sometimes. Some games I kind of dropped the ball myself, and every loss I put on myself. I never really put the loss on the kids. Every loss I take on my chest. Every win I credit to the boys. But sometimes youth just kind of kept us from really reaching that mark. 5 or less points. We got the lead. A minute left in the game, and a young player might take a shot, and the ball is going the other way, and then the other team has a lead. Just a few things like that from us being, a 10 and 13 team to being a 17 and 16. You know what I'm saying? Like we really could have easily been, had a very good win record, and on that team we're only losing 1 senior. So I mean, next year the future is bright, and the future is really bright at Lake. Whoever steps into that position next, and I feel like as long as they treat it right and they do right by the kids, they'll be successful. Lake definitely made a step in the right direction this past year. The boys, were really bought in. They started seeing themselves. They started believing in winning. So I think the boys will do an extremely good job, in this upcoming season. But like I said, that all goes to say it was not an easy decision to go to Madison Central. I had to pray about it. I had to go to the Lord in prayer almost every single night. I talked to my wife about it. When I first sat down and interviewed with Coach Gardner, in the interview committee, the first question they asked me was, what brings you here? And I was just honest. I said, family. In Scott County, her father, Dr. McGee, was a superintendent. But as you know, he took over as the superintendent of Starkville, Oktibbeha. So he's now the superintendent at Starkville. So he's moved to Starkville, and her mom in that area with him, and her brother just matched at UMMC, University Medical Center, Mississippi Medical Center, in orthopedic surgery. So now he's moving to Madison. So she has her brother over there. She has a lot of friends and family, cousins in the Rankin County area. And that's just where she ultimately wanted to be. So I prayed about it, and I felt like God just opened up too many doors for us to go in to Madison County, to step into the Rankin County, Madison County area and make that move. I felt like it was a God thing. So, I mean, anything God tells you to do, you really can't deny. So I initially started looking for family, for my wife to be a little bit happier. Well, she loves people in Scott County. She loves Scott County, the place, but she just doesn't have as many people, here as she does in the Rankin County area. So I first started looking because of family, because of my wife. And, like I said, God just really kind of moved mountains. He just kind of opened the right doors for us to step in there, so the top 3 things, I've always been told by a lot of my mentors, you don't put over basketball, is family, God first, family second, so God and family tell me to go, I got to go, even though being a head coach for 1 year, it wasn't just the most ideal thing to leave a head varsity position. It's still really exciting to step in there, and be on the 7A level, with a guy like Coach Gardner, because, out of my few conversations that I've had with Coach Gardner and the time I've been around him, I can tell he's a really good Christian guy. Will be a good mentor for me, somebody good to have in my corner. I can learn a lot of X's and O's, learn a lot of basketball, and I'll be able to compete, still as a head coach, as you said, on the ninth grade level, which I know the Little Six is a very, very competitive league, and it's taken very, very seriously. But at the end of the day, it's also just kind of hard to leave Scott County because that's where my heart, and soul has been for the past 4 years. It was my first job, the first county I've worked in, and the only county I've worked in as a coach. So it wasn't just a super easy decision, but it was a decision that was kind of provided by God. God laid it out there for me, and I just had to reach out and trust Him and accept the position that was laid out there for me.
Coach, that's again, you got a lot of wisdom, man. And again, in the introduction I gave earlier, people can start to see that now. And Madison County is a good school district. When I first started, I was in Jackson Public Schools back home. That's where I wanted to be. Kind of like you, the head coaching job came open, but I didn't get it. Of course, I know that you looking, to be the head coach at your first stop. And so I went to Germantown High School and worked in Madison County for 4 years. Madison County is a great place, and I think you're going to enjoy it. And I'm gonna be excited, to be able to watch you play. Obviously, Justin is coaching at Germantown, the ninth grade level, and the Little Six is very competitive. It gives you that. Just talking to Justin, it gives you that same preparation. You have to be able to scout. You got to be able to scheme. You have to be able to. They have 2 divisions. I think it's North and South, maybe. They got a tournament. So there's all those different things that you have to prepare for. You play against high-level coaching. Excuse me. You have big facilities, nice facilities, and you still have. And here's the thing about it: you still are needed, and it's vital for you to be able to do a lot of good work on the high school level. And again, and I think you're coming in at a great time because with us starting 7A next year, you got an opportunity. Madison Central, Coach Gardner, and all the guys in the program have an opportunity to be the first 7A state champion. So it's always something you got to find in the sand. You always got to find something positive in that manner of it. So I'm excited to see. Again, I think that kind of, gives somebody some clarity about it because everybody's always going to have your opinion, but it really doesn't matter. That's why I'm glad for this platform because people can always say, well, I wonder why you're doing this. Well, you heard it first on In the Sand podcast. Again, it's bigger than basketballs, and I'm grateful to be able to share that moment with you. One more thing before we get into basketball, I thought about this because when you at the Little Six, or you play at ninth grade coach, you got to drive the bus. So because you had that experience of being at a small school, you got an opportunity to be able to, you come in being able to drive that bus. They're just so important with that. And I'm gonna throw this out. And Coach Justin Sanders and I, we talk about this all the time. All coaches, especially our young coaches, or those who are thinking about getting into the game, go ahead and work on that CDL. Having your CDL is so important because it's a challenge when you, especially a first-year teacher, first-year coach, and of course we start working out in the summer, and then you trying to figure out how I figure all this stuff out and still learn how to drive a bus. That becomes a challenge. So, man, work on that CDL. That's important. Get that CDL because it's going to pay a lot of dividends. That's going to help you out. Coach, let's talk a little bit about basketball. Getting a couple of fast break questions, and we'll get out. Coach. Let's talk about this. We haven't really talked about this with any of our other basketball coaches, and I think it's a good topic to have. Coach, talk about substitutions. What's your philosophy with making subs? Because as you know, in this generation, Coach, when we played, if we sat on the bench, we knew we were on the bench, and we didn't argue, we didn't fight, we didn't have a bad attitude. We was there. In this generation, it's almost instant. They want it instant, and they don't understand why I gotta sit on the bench, coach, or boom, boom, boom. And parents don't understand it. So those things get challenging. But as coaches, we understand that we can't play everybody. We understand that this is our livelihood and this is what we have to do. But coach, talk to me about your philosophy in when it comes to subs.
When it comes to substituting, substitutions, my best players are going to play the majority of the game.
Yeah.
you gotta pay your dues. Younger guys have to pay their dues, or guys who just want more minutes have to pay their dues. They have to get in the gym. I mean, for the most part, the better guys are typically the guys who are in the gym more often. They may have started playing basketball earlier, but typically they have been or are in the gym more often than the guys who are sitting the bench, because they put more work in. And it may not be during just practice time, it may be on their own individual time, which is really where a lot of players get that individual skill that they need to be, in the game, because I mean, it's about Jimmy's and Joe's, but on the same hand, with me, I sub number one, if that energy is not there, if your effort, I preach the 3 E's: energy, effort, execution. If those 3 things aren't there, you're gonna be on the bench. If you don't give me maximum energy, maximum effort, if your effort's not there, if you're going through the motions, or if you're not execute what I'm asking you to execute, if you're not going out there and you know getting back into the right kind of defense, if you're not getting into position on defense, I'm a more of a man coach. If you're not getting all the way to the midline, if you're kind of, halfway playing it and you're kind of sitting out there kind of hugged up to your guy, you're not getting where you're supposed to get. You're not executing what I'm telling you to on the offensive or defensive end. If I call out a set and you're not running that set, you don't know that set, well, that's your fault, because I get everybody equal opportunity in my practice. I get reps for everybody. Sometimes we'll all do it together. Sometimes we'll split up and do it on both ends. And I've done it, myself. At the 2A level, I had to do it by myself. You hit on a lot of stuff earlier, for some coaches, listening to the podcast, which a lot of coaches don't understand. I had to drive a bus. I swept the floors. I had to put the balls up and out, and I had some seniors, a senior and some players who would help me do those kind of things. But on the same hand, I had to do a lot of that on my own. And I don't really consider that stuff cons, because, just being honest, working in a small school so long, that stuff just became normalcy for me. It just became normal. I don't even see it. You hit on all that stuff earlier. I mean, I didn't even think about that kind of stuff, just because working in small schools, you're expected to do that kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're expected to sweep the floor. You're expected to drive the bus. You're expected, to run fundraisers. You're expected to feed the boys. I know at times I'd have to leave school at 3:10, have, the girls coach watch my boys while I ran down to Pizza Hut and went and grabbed, pregame for the boys. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a lot of things, that you really don't understand, that 2A coaches have to do. I mean, it's a lot on your plate, but, if you're just willing to do everything, on your own, and you expect coming in, to do everything on your own and don't expect anybody else to do things for you, when other people do stuff for you, you're really appreciative of it. Like, you show a lot of appreciation, a lot of gratitude, because, if you don't expect it to be done for you, if you expect it to do it yourself, when other people chip in and they help out, it makes your job so much easier. So it helps you appreciate those things. And then on the same hand, you really get to have that just that luxury. And I say it's luxury because you get to learn doing it on your own. You learn a lot by doing that kind of stuff on your own. So I wouldn't even call that stuff a con. But as far as substitution goes, like I said, if that energy is not there, if that effort's not there, if that execution not there, they're coming out. If they're being lazy, they're coming out. I'm a big guy on body language, and I kind of tie that into energy, how you approach the game, if I look back on the bench and you're quiet, you're not clapping. If I don't hear you back there, clapping or whatever, if I look back and you got puppy dog eyes, what I tell the boys, like, you got puppy dog eyes, I'm just going to send you to the end of the bench. If you're feeling sorry for yourself, I ain't got no place in the game for you. I've subbed guys in before just because I could hear them cheering as loud as they could possibly can right there behind me. And I just hear their voice, and I'm like, this sucker wants to play, So if I see somebody else just have an inkling of a mess up, or like a lack of execution or a lack of effort, well, I'm sending that kid in to play, because his body language, he's ready to play. He's showing me he's ready to play. But for the most part, my best players are going to play the majority of the game. And if other players want to step up and get playing time, I'm a coach I'm going to open the gym up as much as I possibly can. I'm going to have open gyms. I know my last year at Morton, from December 26th to the end of our season, I opened the gym every single day. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I opened it every single day from December 26th to the day we lost out. So I'm going to be in the gym. So the players don't have, any kind of reason to say, well, I can't get in the gym, and I'll drive around, I'll pick players up, so I mean, they have no excuse to say, well, coaches didn't give me a chance, because I'm giving you a chance whenever I open that gym up for you to come in and work on your game. And if you won't play in time, you got to put the work in to earn it. I don't play, I don't care what, who the kid is. That stuff doesn't really matter to me. It don't matter if you're my best player. I benched my best player this year 5 games straight, just because he wasn't, doing what the program, doing what the system asked. I mean, so I benched my best player, the kid who played in the All-Star game for me, which he learned his lesson, and he turned it around quick. But I had to bench him 5 games straight, just for him to learn that lesson. I'm gonna play the guys who give it to me the most. Those guys who bring energy, effort, and execution. Those guys who do what the program says to do. Those guys are gonna play.
Coach, that's amazing. And I hope we got some players listening to that, because that is key. Because for some reason you often hear, well, he playing because he likes such and such, such and such. Most all coaches that I know, and Coach said it right, coach is gonna play their best players. Like, people, you hear sometimes in the stand, oh, he trying to lose, or he ain't playing such and such. And I'm thinking in my mind, if that kid could help him win or help her win, trust me, they would be out there. So 9 times out of 10, coaches are going to play their best players. And Coach said it best. With the generation that we're in now, and these coaches who are coaching now, we have learned that as head coaches, we got to open the gym, or we got to have an energetic guy like Coach Collins, who's going to be able to open the gym for us, for our kids. So we have adjusted as well to that matter of it. So, Coach, I'm gonna ask you one more basketball question, and then we'll get you out of here with our fast break questions. Coach, talk to us about your offense. When I come and watch, Rosa Scott play Germantown this upcoming season, offensively, of course, I know to all of your offense, but pretty much what style of offense, or what can we look to see from your guys? I know we're gonna see energy. I know we're gonna see effort and execution. But offensively, what are you gonna like? What type of offense do you like to run in the system of Coach Collins?
I'm really a player personnel coach. I'm gonna play to my personnel. If my best player is a guard, I'm gonna try to play to my best player. If he's a guard, I'm gonna try to play to the guard. If he's a big, I'm gonna try to play to the big. This year at Lake, my best player is really a big. He was a 6'4". He played in the All-Star game, the junior All-Star game this a couple weeks ago. Actually won, offensive MVP of the game, but I mean, he was big. Most of his points are gonna come inside, so I'm gonna try to get the ball inside to him. I'm gonna try to give my best player the best chance of scoring. But on the same hand, as long as my players, kind of going back to what I said earlier, as long as they're doing right, for applying that energy, that effort, that execution, I give my players a lot of freedom. We're gonna run some motions. We're gonna run a lot of motions offense. I like to kind of spread the floor out, play in space. I like players to attack gaps, make the extra pass, and just get a motion offense. And if we don't get anything out of our motion, then I'll, as we motion and kind of make the defense guard us for a little bit, well, then I'm calling out, a quick hitter, a set out of our motion. Our sets, all of our motions can lead us into one of our sets, and I'll run a set for, my best player, my top 2 players. I really like a slot screen, pick and roll. I like a pick and roll, out of the slot, kind of clear side of the floor, and have my best 2 players go to work. And so a lot of my, offense is usually cater to that, because if your best player is a big and you got a good ball handler, you set that pick and roll, you can get the ball to the big. If they kind of double down on the big and you got a good guard, he can get to the cup, or have a nice little midi game where you can pull up for that mid-range jumper. And if they overhelp, and you got, shooters on the opposite side. So I try not to limit my players, but on the same hand, if one of my players take a shot they're not supposed to, I got my bench back there. Let me get him. You know what I'm saying? So they know what shots they're supposed to take and what shots they're not supposed to take. I don't really limit my players. I'm not saying certain players can't shoot the ball, but what shots are most efficient. I preach efficiency. The most efficient teams win games. The most efficient teams win championships. So you can't have, a guy who's averaging 20 points, 6 feet and in. You can't have him going out there and jacking up threes all game. But on the same hand, I'm not just going to snatch him the first time he shoots a shot, if it's a good shot, kind of out of character, But yeah, I like to play in space, run a lot of motion offense, and I really like to get up and down. Transition is how I played in high school. Transition is how I played in college with Coach Knight. And then transition is really how we played when I was in Morton. We didn't really slow the ball down much. We try to get up and down the floor, and try to get a quick bucket, and then hop back into the press or get back straight back into our defense.
Man, I was just writing this down, Coach. I had to add another E to your list, efficient. So it
Yeah.
seemed like, so I wrote that down. So I got energy, effort, execution, and being efficient. Coach,
What I usually tell I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
What I usually tell my players is those 3 E's equal that 1 E. So if you got energy, effort, and execution, those 3 things equal efficiency. And that's what I preach to my players: energy, effort, execution. If you bring those 3 things, you're going to be the most efficient team on the floor. So that's where that 4th E comes into play. I preach efficiency to my players. I try to tell them all year long, it's about being the most efficient team. You're not taking shots out of character, not doing things out of character, being the right kind of player, being the right kind of teammate. Again, not showing bad body language, not getting festered up when a ref makes a bad call. Like that kind of stuff is big to me. Character over basketball. You know what I'm saying? Like it's more about if you're winning off the court, if you're winning with character, kids know how to carry themselves and carry themselves like champions, then you probably will be a champion. If you carry yourself like a winner, you probably will be a winner. If you carry yourself like a loser, you probably will be a loser.
That's powerful there, Coach. Again, one of my philosophy is kind of the same. I believe that I tell my kids all the time, basketball is a replication of real life because it teaches you so many principles with it. So again, we try to teach you to be a winner on the court, like you said, and it'll lead to being a winner off the court. They really work hand in hand. And I tell my kids that, especially in the classroom, the same way in the classroom. So we expect you to be winners in everything that you do. I like the slot pick and roll as well. I didn't want to leave that out. All right, Coach, let's get into our fast break questions, and then we're going to get you out, Coach. Just pick your brain a little bit. Just kind of talk about the little basketball that you have inside of you, the fan aspect of you. So, Coach, I'm going to throw this one out here for you. Coach, if you got a chance to get one ticket, you got the NBA Finals, you got Game 7. I'm gonna put 2 teams in there for you. For Game 7, I'm going. Let's do a rematch of last year. So we got Golden State versus Boston. I know Golden State has been struggling, so you get a Game 7 ticket to the Golden State Warriors versus the Boston Celtics in San Francisco. They're in San Francisco right now. Golden State, they're in San Francisco now. So in San Francisco. Or you get a ticket to the national championship college basketball game, Coach.
NBA Game 7, final Game 7. I don't know, man. Well, Golden State, that's my team. You kind of said a key word there. I'm a big Steph Curry fan. I love the backcourt. Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and then Jordan Poole, adding him in that mix. I'm a big Steph Curry fan, big Warriors fan. And I love college, and I watch more college games than I do NBA, but I'd probably have to make that NBA game. I'd probably have to go to that NBA Finals game. Game 7 between the Boston Celtics. That's one of my favorite teams as well. And then the Golden State Warriors, man, I'd have to roll with that NBA Finals game.
And that's cool, man. I'm a New Orleans Pelicans guy, so shout out to all my Pelicans fans. We're gonna eventually do it 1 year, so everybody jump on the bandwagon before we get good. All right. A fast break question. 1-on-1, Chance Collins or Trey Collins? Who's winning that game?
Well, I gotta say me. My brother's 6'6". I'm 6 foot. Don't ask me how it happened. He's got a height advantage on me. But I got a little bit of a quicker first step. Just being honest, we worked it out our whole life. Me and him are both really, really competitive. Some of our one-on-one games have got a little bit more hostile than some people probably would appreciate. I can actually think back to our first time under our head coach who came in my 10th grade year, man. Our first time in practice, me and my brother started fighting in practice because I was guarding him and he was guarding me, and he's trying to post me up, and he's trying to hook me, and I put my leg up under his leg and I pulled a chair out from up under him. He falls, and we started going after it. But man, being honest, my brother's hard to guard. He's got a long, a long stride, a long first step. I have a quick first step, but he's got a long first step. I mean, he's two steps and he's to the rack. But if I'm on, it's me. if I'm missing, he knows how to guard me. If I'm missing, he'll probably win it. But if I'm on, I'm gonna say 9 out of 10 times I'm on, I'm gonna win.
I love it, Coach. Next fast break question. All-time starting five NBA.
All time starting five. I mean, maybe by position.
However you want to do it. You can do position or you can do positionless basketball. Either one is fine.
If I went by position again, now Steph Curry, that's my guy. You know, that's my favorite player. You know, I really don't know if I put Steph or Magic there because I love Magic too.
Yeah.
You know, I like old school basketball. Just if I'm saying all the time though, you're talking about just a pure point guard, you know, like a real point guard. I mean, I think Magic has to go over Steph.
Yeah.
Steph can shoot it. He's a lights out shooter, but I have to put Magic at the one. MJ at the two. He's got that dog in him. You know, I'd probably have to put KD at the three. Just a 7-foot, you know, score. You don't see many people like that. LeBron at the four, you know, kind of have that stretch for LeBron, and then Giannis at the five. Giannis Antetokounmpo at the five. That would be my 1 through 5 by position.
Hey, that's an interesting lineup. I see that you, Tadlock, and Trey, y'all got LeBron at that at the 4, and that stretch forward. That's amazing. But I like that lineup. That's a different lineup that we've had so far. You got Magic, MJ, KD, Bron, and the Greek Freak. Man, that's a good lineup, Coach. I like it. I like that. Coach. All right, I'm going to throw the video games a little bit, Coach. Coach, when I think about video games, when we play the game, we thinking about those guys on the video game that we play and that's unstoppable. Coach, what's the 5? What would be your starting 5 of all-time unstoppable players on NBA 2K? I'm talking about, you know, it's guys that just are like, as they say, video game. Like, so if you had to choose 5 guys that you like unstoppable on 2K, what's your 5 guys?
Man, if I had to go 5 guys unstoppable, I'd say LeBron.
Yes.
You know, he's been rated 99 on a few games. MJ, he's rated 99 on a few games. And the newer additions, man, Giannis.
Yes.
He's unstoppable. I mean, I've played 2K with, you know, sometimes I have some of my boys over at the house. Man, they'll play me with the Bucks. They'll have 50 points with Giannis. I mean, that joker, he's dunking everything. He's so hard to guard. I mean, so I'd say, you know, LeBron, MJ, Giannis, Kobe. Kobe just a killer. And then I would say probably KD. KD is really, really hard to guard. Paul George was right there for a while too, but I can't throw Paul George in there right now. I'd have to say KD. He's a 7-foot guard. You know, he can get to the rack. He can shoot the 3. He can shoot the mid range. I mean, he's just one of the most skilled players, one of the most skilled guards in basketball, and he's 7 foot tall. That's why I had to put him in my all-time starting 5 too. He's just, I mean, a 7-foot guard is ridiculous.
Yes, man. I like Steph in it all-time 2K too, because him shooting, man, you can shoot them. When you get hot with him, you got to know how to obviously shoot on 2K. But when you get hot, it makes a difference.
That shooting stick messed me up last year. Man, I couldn't shoot with Steph. If I'm being honest, if we're going back to the old shooting stick, yes, when it didn't used to be, you know, when you had to time it, because I still ain't figured that thing out. When I first got that new game, man, I was airballing everything with Steph. I said, oh my gosh, man. I was like, they made him so trash in this game. Yeah. But Steph would be in that group if it's the old shooting stick, because I used to shoot with it, but it's a little bit different now. That new shooting stick kind of has me messed up. Everything's got to be at the goal now. I mean, they got guys doing, you know, reverse 360s. I mean, East Bays. I mean, 2K is so animated now. In 2K, you got those guys who just can't be stopped at the rim, like LeBron, Giannis, and those.
Yeah, that's funny, man. And people probably laugh at me, man. I never really use a shoe stick. I used to still hit X or A to shoot my jump shot. Shoe stick. All-time coaching staff, Coach. So you got 5 coaches. We're gonna say let's say you're coaching in the All-American high school game. You got to choose 5 high school coaches. to be on your staff. Give me a all-time coaching staff that so it's gonna be you and you bringing 5 other guys or 5 young ladies or a combination of both, and they gotta be high school coaches. Who you bringing on your staff to win that game?
Well, I mean, one of the Mississippi goes. I got to go with Coach Billups.
Okay,
I know he's college now. Can I use him? I know he's college
that's
now.
cool. Yeah,
He was hot when I was young. Coach Billups up there. That's Coach Porter is another one of my, his son. Coach Porter is another one of my really good mentors. And I love Coach Porter. I had the opportunity to share sideline with him this year. Got to play head to head against Coach Porter and Newton because they were in our district. So Billups, I would say Coach Norman from Meridian. I would say Coach Carter, Starkville. I would say Coach Tadlock. Of course, he's up there with me. And then, if I'm just going all the time, I'd probably have to say, Coach Miller, Gulfport. I've watched Coach Miller's teams the past few years, and I really like what he does with his teams too.
That's not a bad lineup of coaches, man. Those are all coaches. And I want to say every coach you name got a state championship. So that's championship pedigree. It kind of reminds me of Coach Walker at Brandon High School, the volleyball coach. He said everything she does for her team is a gold ball standard. And so the lineup that you put together, that's a gold ball standard. Coach, 2 more fast break questions. Who is your GOAT of NBA basketball? Who is your GOAT? Who is your decision? Who do you have?
I know he's a little bit older than me. I know I really caught more of the tail in his career. But I got MJ, man. I go back and watch Hardwood Classics, and that documentary that he had, The Last Dance, and that kind of solidified him, being the GOAT for me. Now, no discredit to LeBron. I don't discredit anybody who gives it to LeBron either, because if you're talking numbers, LeBron James has, just some of the most absurd stats that you could possibly think. His passing ability is better than Jordan's. In my opinion, better than Jordan's. He can get to the cup. His shot has done nothing but gotten better year by year. It's almost like he's aging backwards. He's gotten older. Even when he's getting way up into his older age, he's getting better and better. I guess it's the game slowing down. He's so smart, and he just sees the game different than most players do. Just some of the video clips I've watched from LeBron, his ingenuity in basketball is crazy. It's ridiculous. But I got to give it to MJ just because he has that dog. MJ just got it inside of him, kind of like Kobe, which Kobe's a replica, of MJ. RIP Kobe. Kobe earned a lot of respect, especially towards the end of his career. But MJ, man, I'd have to give it to MJ. MJ he's got the go-getter. He's got those 3 things I was talking about before, that energy that he, every single night, you knew what you was going to get with MJ. He was going to constantly bring it. There was no nights he took off. He was going to play every night. He was going to give his all. He was going to be really, really animated with everything he did. He was going to bring that energy. He was going to bring that effort, and he was going to execute at the end of the night. So, you knew MJ could deliver for you.
All right, Coach, last question. Of course, you said that you are a playing space guy, transition guy. So this is a perfect fast break question. Which team are you choosing? And the coach is Mike D'Antoni. Are you choosing the Mike D'Antoni team with the Steve Nash and the Phoenix Suns? Or are you choosing the Mike D'Antoni team with the Houston Rockets?
I got to go Steve Nash.
Okay, Phoenix Suns. Okay. All right, man.
I gotta go Suns. I was a big Nash fan when I was younger. Just being honest, I'm a young white kid. I see another, a white baller. Steve Nash at that time was on the tops, MVP and all, what I'm saying? He didn't win a championship. But he really showed me, a white boy can do it. This kind of gave me some hopes because I wanted to be in the NBA when I was growing up too. Coaching kind of came later on. in my career. Like I said, in my youth, coaching came a little bit. Those aspirations came a little bit later. I first wanted to go to the NBA. That was my dream, man, to go play at that level. And players like Steve Nash, they kind of gave me hope.
Hey, same thing. That was my dream too, to go to the NBA. Coach, it was a great interview. As we wrap up, and of course, I've been calling the last section. I changed it from the conclusion to the last shot. So, Coach, go ahead and take the last shot.
First of all, man, I just want to really say thank you for, first of all, allowing me to be on this podcast with you. You just what you're doing for coaches, young coaches like me, my brother, even vetted coaches. You got coaches like Coach Tadlock on here, who's been to the last 7 state championships. A vetted coach like yourself, been able to run this platform and interview other coaches. I just know you've had a lot of really vetted coaches on Coach Moncrief, Coach Foster. I know you having a lot of people, really quality coaches on this podcast that young coaches like myself and older coaches even can, get on and have the opportunity to step in and watch and learn. Because at the end of the day, as a coach, it don't matter how long you've been doing this, you got to understand that you can never stop learning the game. The game's constantly evolving. Kids are constantly changing. I mean, kids nowadays are doing stuff that you would have thought would be impossible, even 10 years ago. I mean, kids are going around, they're East Band 360 in Crocs. You got kids who don't even play basketball coming in the gym, tomahawking. That kind of stuff wasn't just too seen around the day. Even in my day, now kids are just different. Kids have trainers and stuff like that. So basketball is just constantly evolving, and as coaches, we have to understand no matter how far, no matter how vetted you get, you have to understand that the game's evolving, and you kind of have to not change with the game, but just learn and grow as the game grows. And this podcast, these interviews you do really opens that platform up for coaches to learn, because it's really good for coaches to go watch college coaches. Like Jay Wright is one of my favorite coaches. I learn a lot of stuff from Coach Wright. Pick it up. But on the same hand, Coach Wright's not coaching high school, and he's not coaching high school in Mississippi. So sharing that, just sharing beliefs and sharing, opinions and values and just day-to-day things with other coaches on this podcast and getting to hear them, and hear what they say and their side, their point of view on things is really beneficial. So just for me in the state of Mississippi, man, thank you for what you're doing. We really appreciate it. I know my brother and I, when we first started saying these things, we were like, it would be really cool to be able to have a chance on that. And then you ended up reaching out to both of us, so I'm really thankful for the opportunity. And I'm really thankful for what you're doing here, man. It means a lot to me. I want to see the game of basketball continue to grow in Mississippi, and this is just a start. That's kind of why me and my brother opened that group chat up, the coaches group chat. We have over 130 active members in it to date. And, that's just across the state of Mississippi, high school. And we're continue to, we have bigger aspirations, bigger plans with that group chat. Hopefully to start, some clinics and stuff up, and, just there's a wide variety of things we want to do with it, but we want to see basketball grow, and we want to help as many coaches, young and old, reach their aspirations. So again, this right here, what you're doing really contributes to that. So I really appreciate it.
Coach, I thank you for saying that. It means a lot. I know you mean that from your heart. And again, I was about to say that as well for with Trey and yourself, what y'all are doing with the group chat. And I know that you talked about earlier when it first kind of kicked off. I know where y'all are planning to take that, and I'm excited about it. Again, I don't want to give out too much information, but again, I'm glad that you all are starting it. And I'm glad that just speaking into existence of what it's going to be. So again, as I said on the episode with Coach Trey Collins, make sure that you check that out in the message or in the comment section below. Coach Chance Collins will put information on how you can possibly get in contact with him or join the group if you haven't already been in the group, because there's so much great information that will be provided from job openings, from dates in the summer, an encouraging word each and every day. So there are some great things going on. So I am excited about it. Another great episode with my man, Coach Chance Collins. I thank you for coming on. And again, I'm excited to get all coaches on here. And sometimes people ask, well, how can I get on this show? Well, a lot of what happened is I've leaned on previous relationships that I have. And then sometimes people just say, hey, I think this person will be a great person to have on. And then also too, what I do when I post my videos or I look at my YouTube, a lot of times I reach out to the people who have been watching and supporting and just liking what we're doing. And that's kind of how we get it. So again, we don't discriminate. We're here to promote the game of basketball, but also if you've seen through my other podcast, I'm reaching out and building relationships with football. I got Coach Kelly on the football side, Coach Tillery on the softball side, Coach Walker on the volleyball side. And again, it's just important. And so we do that. We reach out outside of our sport of basketball because you can learn so much from other coaches. Like I was talking to Coach Collins before we started this interview. I'm excited to continue to learn from Coach Walker at Brandon High School, who again, she's a 4-time state champion looking to go to three-peat and win her 5th state championship. So I'm learning some things that she does at that level because she's dominant in that level that can transition to what I'm doing on the basketball court. So again, please please subscribe, and please share this content. As always, make sure that you visit my IG page, and I'm gonna put that down in the comment section as well, because we're raising money for St. Jude, and every 30 days we're raising money to help some type of organization, because we're using our platform obviously to share our stories, but also to continue to bless other people. So until next time, as I always say, and it makes a difference, be kind, be nice to someone, and we'll see you on the next episode.